In this video, we're going to be taking a look at my personal process for color grading my footage for this channel. Now, if you want to see some examples of that, I'll link some in the cards above and then also link some below. Essentially, this is just a response to some people asking how I personally color grade. And as a disclaimer, I just want to say that I'm not a professional colorist and I'm not really even a professional filmmaker at this point. So people like the way my footage looks in previous videos and they wanted to see how I got to that place. So this video is going to be that. So take everything that I say with a grain of salt. I hope you get something out of this. So, all right, so we have here my 4K 24p of me just talking. I have the softbox giving me some light on the side of my face, and I already have it color corrected. I just messed around with my temperature and tint a little bit to get it where I want it to be. Like I said, not a professional. So first thing I do here with my talking head portions is I go into curves, and then what I'm gonna do first is add contrast to my image. So what most people do is they just go, you know, down like that, up like that, boom, we're done. And that's fine and it looks fine. But what I like to do is I drop my white point and I bring up my black point, which you can see flattens out the image even more. So you see that, and then it actually tiny bit of flatness added. So what I do here is I take my low to mid points, or low point actually, is I drag it down over a little bit into the mid, so we're right around here. And then I take my, you know, higher, take some of the highs, move it up, and then I actually put the highs pretty much back to where they started. Because typically what happens is if you go too high, it ends up just blowing out some of the highlights and it adds way too much contrast in my personal opinion. Again, not a professional. I get this to kind of where I want it to be. Add a little contrast there. Good to go. Cool. Alrighty, so we're pretty much good there. Now it adds a little bit of contrast, and you can see that that actually really brought a lot more out of the image. You can see the brown tones here pop out a little bit, the color in the flowers and the green here, whatever that is on the piano, who knows. And it brings out my skin color a little bit more as well. You can see a little more detail in the skin. So next thing I'm gonna do is go over to color wheel and match, and we're gonna go down to shadows, and the darker portions of our image, we're just gonna add a slight bit of teal, ever so slight. And then in midtones, we're gonna add a very slight bit of orange, and this is where we kind of mess around with the look of our image, I would say. So you could theoretically go hardcore orange, hardcore blue until you kind of balance out the image like this, so then you still have fairly neutral colors in the background, but you can see that the blues and the oranges really pop when it comes to the actual grade itself, even while maintaining some of that white balance that we wanted to maintain. I really don't know what I'm talking about, but we're gonna go pretty subtle because that's what I do most of the time. We're just gonna add orange until I feel like it's at a place where I want. Right around there. Maybe move it away from the greens because I feel like it looks ever so slightly green. All right, there we go. So that's generally where I like it. And then the last thing that I do to my image is I drop the midtones even more. So this really just gives me a slider option for my midtones. You could theoretically do this more in curves, but I just like this because it gives me a little more, I just like to mess around with the look of it without screwing anything else up. So I get the contrast to where I want it to be, right around, I'd say there. And we're pretty much done at this point. So if we toggle lumetri on and off, you can see pretty flat to the image that we want. Now, like I said, you can add a little style to it with a little more extreme shadow and midtone to get it where you want it, but this is generally where I like it to be. Now, if you notice, some of my videos have a fairly desaturated look while maintaining some of the skin tones. So what I do for that is I typically make my saturation down to around 90. You can see how it kind of sucks some of that color and life out of the image, or 85, right around there. And what I'll do is I'll go to HSL secondary. I'll grab my key, select my skin tones, turn on color grade to see where I'm selecting, and I'll try to move the luminance a little bit so it captures some of that darker area. Look like a freaking demon. Okay, so we're right around there. And then what I'll do is I'll go to 110 for saturation, bringing back those skin tones to where they were before. So essentially it desaturates everything in the image except for that color range, which just adds a little more life to the image. It's super subtle, as you can see. Not a huge difference, but it brings out a little bit of that color in my face. So I have a link in the description where I'm selling these. If you just wanted something quick and easy that you can slap a LUT on the footage, go ahead and download those. And they're specific to the Panasonic G85. So if you have a G85 or a G7, something that has the same codecs and same picture profiles, these could be pretty valuable to you. So I'll link those in the description, and we will see you all next week.